The Mike Wagner Show is powered by Sonic Web Studios. If you're looking to start or upgrade your online presence, visit www.sonicwebstudios.com for all of your online needs. Sonic Web Studios specializes in custom web design, app development, social networking, search engine optimization, domain registration, email marketing, online stores, and more. Since our birth, we have been designing and developing immaculate websites and providing web solutions which are a cut above the rest. As a leading web designing enterprise, we have a team of extremely talented web designers who are well-focused and have the experience of working on multiple web developing platforms such as PHP, Magento, custom WordPress, and more. Sonic Web Studios has been helping businesses of all kinds, whether big, small, established, or startup, impress their audiences with exemplary web solutions. We don't just create beautiful and functional websites. We give you a complete online solution with the main goal of enhancing your yearly revenues. We aim to give your business the online exposure and brand acknowledgement that will help you in achieving increased conversions leading to profitable sales. Call 1-800-303-3960 or visit us online at www.sonicwebstudios.com to get started today. Mention the Mike Wagner Show and get 20% off your project. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level.
Hey everybody, it's Mike from the Mike Wagner Show. It's time to give a shout out to our official sponsor of the Mike Wagner Show, international award-winning author Mian Mosen Zia. If you love fast-paced mysteries, then you'll love Missing by Mian Mosen Zia. Available on Amazon in paperback and ebook. Missing is fast-paced and intriguing with an unforgettable twist. It takes place in 4 countries with 2 strangers and 1 target where truth is an illusion and those you love will be the first to go missing. It's available in paperback and ebook on Amazon. Missing by Mian Mosen Zia has garnered great reviews and is even loved by Hollywood celebrities including Joanna Cassidy, Forbes Riley, and many others. So grab your copy today. Order Missing by Mian Mosen Zia, now available at Amazon.
It's now time for the Mike Wagner Show, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. The Mike Wagner Show can be heard on Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartradio, YouTube, iTunes, Anchor FM, Radio Public, and the MikeWagnerShow.com. Mike brings you great guests and interesting people from all across the globe. So sit back, relax, and enjoy another great episode of the Mike Wagner Show.
Hey everybody, it's Mike from the Mike Wagner Show, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Looking at a professional website without breaking your budget? Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs at below the competition rate. Call today 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960, or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show, get 20% off your first project. Sonic Web Studios, take your image to the next level. Also, time to give a shout out to our official sponsor of the Mike Wagner Show, international award-winning author Mian Mosen Zia. If you love fast-paced mysteries, you'll love Missing by Mian Mosen Zia. Available on Amazon in paperback and ebook. Missing is fast-paced and intriguing with an unforgettable twist. Takes place in 4 countries, 2 strangers, and 1 target, where truth is an illusion and those you love will be the first to go missing. It's available on paperback and ebook on Amazon. Missing by Mian Mosen Zia has garnered great reviews and even loved by Hollywood celebrities, including Joanna Cassidy, Forbes Riley, and many others. So grab your copy today before it goes missing by Mian Mosen Zia, available on Amazon. Also, the Mike Wagner Show can be heard on the MikeWagnerShow.com. You can check our Facebook page at Facebook.com/The Mike Wagner Show. You can download and listen on Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Also on Anchor FM, iTunes, Google Play, Amazon, Audible, and Apple. Coming soon to Podbean, Buzzsprout, Pandora, and TuneIn. Heard worldwide on Geo 7, Radio Public, Himalaya, and more. Take the Mike Wagner Show with you on any mobile device. Subscribe to the Mike Wagner Show on the YouTube channel, and follow the Mike Wagner Show on Instagram and Twitter today. And don't forget to support the Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com. Also on Anchor FM/support, and also on PayPal. And don't forget to check out our gift store as well too. Go to Amazon.com/the Mike Wagner Show. And for more great gift ideas, books, and more from our sponsor, Mian Mosen Zia, go to Amazon.com/Mian Mosen Zia and order today. We're here with a wonderful author who's currently in esexjunction, Vermont. He's originally from Pittsburgh, PA, lived in New York City, and he's a veteran author, and his work has appeared in McSweeney's, iShop, Pendle Boys, also Word Riot and more. He's also got some books called The Absent Traveller, Circus by the Sea, Dive, Sketches of Invalids, and he's also got a new book out from Beacon Publishing called Memoir of a Doomsday Prophet. This guy has an amazing story to tell. And live, ladies and gentlemen, from the Plus Studios in beautiful downtown Essex-Junction, Vermont, the very multi-talented author and of Beacon Publishing, Randall DeVallance. Randall, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thanks for joining us today.
Well, thanks so much for having me, Mike. It's great to be here. It's great to talk to another human being. They're thing these days.
Talk to another human being? What happened? Were you in isolation for that long? Really?
Well, I've got my family members, but, after a while.
Oh, yeah. That's right. The pandemic. I totally forgot about it. Oh, my gosh. Where have I been? It's like I've been enclosed in a pandemic. I forgot what other people are like, but at least we're 6 feet apart. It's more than that. Maybe was like 6 million, 60 million, 600 million.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the nice part is you don't have to wear a mask tonight because I can't see you and you can't see me. And that's the best part of being pre-video in this case. So that's a good thing. And of course, you're currently in Essex-Junction, Vermont. You're from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, lived in New York City, and you've been a veteran author for quite some time. You've got books called The Absent Traveller, Circus by the Sea, Dive, Sketches of Invalids. Your work appeared in McSweeney's, I Shot, Pendle Boys, Ward Riot, and more. And we'll talk about your new book in a few minutes, Memoir of a Doomsday Prophet from Beacon Publishing. And before we get into all that, tell us how I first got started, Randall.
Sure. So, I was lucky enough to have one of those teachers in high school that you kind of never forget that, that really makes an impact on your life. I mean, I had a lot of great teachers in high school, but, there was one in particular. She was my 10th grade English teacher. And, when I had her in 10th grade, she started a creative writing program for 11th and 12th graders. So the very next year I joined, and, she's really responsible for taking whatever kind of basic talents that I had with writing and just a love of reading, and kind of showed me that I could do, a lot more with it. She pushed me to try a lot of different types of writing. So all different types of poetry, essays, arguments, short stories, long form stuff. I mean, everything you can think of. She also gave me my first exposure to feedback, and, taught me that negative feedback isn't the worst thing in the world. And, you can always make things better. And then most importantly, that there was at least something there in my writing that people enjoyed reading. So that was something that, I carried with me after I left high school. And, I never majored in creative writing. I didn't go for my MFA. I'm from a small blue collar town. I lived in Pittsburgh, but I first grew up in, a small Western, Pennsylvania town, very rural. And it's kind of ingrained in me the importance of having, a safe job with benefits. I always think of like Harvey Pekar, who made American Splendor. He always worked for the Postal Service. Even after his comic got really huge, he started making a lot of money. He kept that job right through to the end because it just seemed nuts to him to give up a safe job that, you have retirement and health benefits. Mm-hmm. And that sort of, gives you a freedom that then you can do exactly what you want with your writing, with whatever art you're making. You never have to worry about the financial side of it. So, instead I went and I majored in environmental science. I figured I prefer working outside to inside. So that's what I'm going to go for. And then immediately upon graduating, I got offered a job at a bank and took it.
Wow. Amazing.
Yeah. I forgot about grad school. I mean, I've worked full time ever since then. So my biggest thing then was just being self-sufficient. So I worked at the bank, and writing was just, a hobby in those early days. So I wrote for different magazines in the Pittsburgh area. Specifically, there was a zine there called Geek Magazine. I was good friends with the editor. I had regular features there, stories, interviews, book and movie reviews. And then also just some of the early like online literary websites. Some of the ones you mentioned, like iShot and Word Riot. All the stories were under 2,000 words, and it gave you a lot of leeway to experiment with form. You could inject humor, surrealism, a lot of the things that, I still like to use today. So it was a good place to experiment. And that's basically the kind of writing that, went on for years. And in the meantime, I ended up quitting the bank. I joined the Peace Corps. I went off to Bulgaria. And when that was over, came back to Pittsburgh, had the same job, and then eventually got offered that job working with where I'm at now, U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services at the time, in New York. And that was then when I was in New York in 2010 when I wrote the novella, The Absent Traveller. So that was about a young man, stuck in retail jobs, living alone, trying to impress an old high school crush that had recently come back to town, but not really getting anywhere, who spent all this free time in bookstores comparing his life with different authors and kind of getting to the point where his subconscious starts substituting all the things he's reading for his own actual life. So I mixed that with a few of my short stories, and that got accepted for publication by Atticus Books, which was a small press out of Washington, D.C.
Wow.
Yeah. So after that, I just mostly went back to writing the same kind of short stories. My daughter was born in 2010, and then we moved to Vermont a couple of years later. So there wasn't a whole lot of time for the next few years. So this book now, Memoir of a Doomsday Prophet, that's the first novel-length work that I've written, and it's the first actual book that I've published in about 10 years. And, really it's just kind of the culmination of certain themes that have been running through my short stories. So chiefly, the sense of feeling disconnected, alienated from modern society, how different people react to or try to deal with that feeling. I mean, that's the thing. It was already kind of an issue back in 2002, when I published my first short story, and it's only grown worse since then. So I find that it keeps kind of seeping back into my work, whether I consciously put it there or not. And of course, now with the pandemic, like all other issues, that's only made the issue more apparent. So it was really on my mind when I wrote this.
And before we talk more about Memoir of a Doomsday Prophet from Beacon Publishing, what inspired you to write The Absent Traveller when you wrote in 2010? What inspired you to first write it?
Well, a lot of those things had happened to me. I mean, I did start out working in retail all through high school and college. I was a pizza delivery guy. I was working there was a store called Media Play, which I'm not sure if you've ever heard, but it's sort of like a combination of Best Buy and Barnes and Noble squished together. I was living alone. I was living in a little studio apartment, and it was kind of the same thing. I mean, there wasn't a whole lot going on. I had wanted to get out and be self-sufficient, and I was, but then I was spending most of my time working, and I did spend a lot of time reading and at the bookstore. And, I just noticed, like, when you spend a majority of your time reading, and reading is almost just kind of like a form of structured daydreaming. And I was finding at times that like that was substituting for figuring out what I was going to do next. And from there, it just sort of kind of came naturally. And as I said, I've always been writing these other short stories on the side, like the 2,000 word one. So I had a bunch of unpublished ones that were still around, and I just kind of switched them all together. And I found the Atticus Books, and they had put out a call on their submissions. They were interested in shorter work. So I just gave it a shot. I thought I had enough there and sent it out, and it all worked out great.
Wow, that is very amazing. And of course, we also know it's on Amazon as well too. And you also have Circus by the Sea, Dive, and Sketches of Invalids. And tell us about those 3 books.
So Dive was the first like full book length work that I tried to put out. I gave it a shot in 2004. It was based off of mostly off of a girlfriend's job working at this kind of awful dive motel out on the outskirts of Pittsburgh. I threw it together, and I think it's one of those cautionary tales for later, where it probably needed workshopped more. I was only really learning how to write something of that size. I ended up, it was sort of a self-publishing, like a hybrid setup, because there was an arts collective in the Pittsburgh area that was willing to do some of the financing and the promotion for it. So it was sort of like a joint venture between them and myself, to self-publish it. And it was just kind of like almost selling it, just copy to copy, going bookstore to bookstore, holding events. And then, I've had this giant crate of like a couple thousand copies of it, and just going one by one and seeing who I could get interested.
Oh my gosh.
And Sketches of Invalids was sort of the same idea. That was, maybe like the first 10 or so short stories that I had managed to publish somewhere on one of these websites. I decided to put them out, self-publish them as a book, and just see, if I could keep that same model going that I used for Dive to sell some copies. So, that gave me my first exposure to what it takes to market and sell a book. But I think it wasn't really till like around when The Absent Traveller came out that I'd been doing it long enough that I really had my game down, where I really started to feel like a professional.
Mm-hmm. And of course, Circus by the Sea as well, too. Maybe a bit about that.
Yeah, so Circus by the Sea actually came, that was after The Absent Traveller. It was sort of the same idea as Sketches of Invalids, where it was, stories that I had published in different magazines and different websites, so that I couldn't really put it in sort of a traditional publisher, collection, to put out since it had been previously published already. But a lot of the stories had gotten really good feedback. And, the great thing about those websites, especially back in the day when I was first writing these is, they got a lot of attention, from the literary crowd. There were a lot of eyeballs on them. But then once, your month passed where your story was up, they would just sort of fade away. And, when I would pass these stories out to other writers and stuff later, I got a lot of good feedback, a lot of positive things said about it. So I figured, well, with Amazon out now where it's easy to publish things, together with CreateSpace, I figured it was worth, putting them together to put that out as sort of an accompaniment to all the other stories I was writing around the time The Absent Traveller came out.
Mm-hmm. And when did McSweeney's, I Shot, and Word Riot, when did those come out again?
So those are some of the sites that were publishing my short stories, back then. And that was all between, 2002 was when my first story came out, but I'd say most of the ones I was publishing for those outlets was between like, say, 2003 to about 2008. Mm-hmm. And there were dozens and dozens of stories. So it spans that whole time period.
Mm-hmm. And how do those compare back then to the sites compare now? Like like now you got WordPress, and I think you've got in Patreon. I think there's also a brand new one called Vocal. It's like how do those sites now compare to the sites you were on back then?
Well, those ones are interesting because those are sort of user curated. So it's kind of up to you to build a brand or to find people willing to donate money to fund that. Whereas in the past, these ones like I Shot and Word Riot, these were usually either, authors and, sometimes already professional authors or, even, professional publishers or editors who were running these things on the side, just because they really wanted to encourage young writers and they wanted to, find new and interesting stuff to put out there. And they were sort of like labors of love, and they were run more like a traditional magazine. Of course, the difference being online is that you were usually lucky to get, any very little or any pay. Mm-hmm. But it was still, it went through the traditional process. You had to submit it. The editors had to review it. They had to accept it. Now with some of these ones, like you said, like Patreon, it's on the one hand, you have a lot more control over what goes on there. But at the same time, it's usually you and your work, alone, and then you're kind of going out and trying to find people that, are willing to pay to read that content. So, I guess it's more like the ownership structure. It's more like a DIY thing versus an online version of a traditional magazine.
Mm-hmm. And of course, too, lastly, before we talk about Memoir of a Doomsday Parent, who are some of your favorite authors and writers growing up?
Well, so, as far as writers who influenced me, I guess I could break that up into two groups. So first there are the writers who got me interested in reading at an adult level, to begin with, which, I still remember when my dad, he brought home a copy of On the Road. He had bought at a yard sale for like $0.25 when I was probably 13 or 14, and just gave it to me and reading it and just being blown away. Cause of course, what sounds better, to a young kid who's just gone through puberty than the idea of hopping into a car and just meandering all over the country and having all these wild adventures with your friends. So, that hooked me right away. And so I finished that, and then things just sort of branched out from there. Kerouac, he makes a reference to Dostoevsky and On the Road. So I figured if I like Kerouac and Kerouac likes him, then that's who I'll read next. So then I read Crime and Punishment and then all of Dostoevsky's short stories. And those, of course, really blew me away. And then it was all the other Russians. And then, of course, the books you start getting assigned in high school, Petra and the Rye in 1984, and things just sort of snowballed from there. As far as writers whose work kind of influences my own now, I try not to model myself too closely on any one writer. In fact, I'll try to read as many different writers as possible during the process of when I'm writing and editing my own stories, just to make sure, I don't start aping any of their styles too closely, just unconsciously. So because I'll notice that, each time I go back through a manuscript, I make little tweaks that seem based on the style of the last person I was reading. So, I try to mix that up to make sure and I'm not like directly grabbing from one person and, sort of taking my influences from multiple places. So I said it was just based on the type of humor and, some of the surrealistic touches that show up in my writing. I guess you could say Kurt Vonnegut or Tom Robbins, or even going back to, somebody like Robert Walser, but really, I just try to read as widely as I can.
That is very amazing. And of course, you talked about all the classic books, and we'll talk about soon to be classic in just a minute, in Memoir of a Doomsday Prophet. You listen to the Mike Wagner Show at the MikeWagnerShow.com, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at SonicWebStudios.com for all your needs. Look at a professional website without breaking your budget. Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs at below the competition way. Call today, 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960. Or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show. Get 20% off your first project. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level. Also, time to give a shout out to our official sponsor of the Mike Wagner Show, international award-winning author Mian Mosensia. If you love fast-paced mysteries, you'll love Missing by Mian Mosensia, available on Amazon in paperback and ebook. Missing is fast-paced and intriguing with an unforgettable twist. It takes place in 4 countries, 2 strangers, and 1 target, where truth is an illusion and those you love be the first to go missing. It's available on paperback and ebook on Amazon. Missing by Mian Mosensia has garnered great reviews and even loved and endorsed by Hollywood celebrities, including Joanna Cassidy, Forbes Riley, and many others. So grab your copy today before it goes missing by Mian Mosensia, available on Amazon. Also, the Mike Wagner Show can be heard on the MikeWagnerShow.com. You can check our Facebook page at Facebook.com/The Mike Wagner Show. You can download and listen on Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Also on Anchor FM, iTunes, Google Play, Amazon, Audible, and Apple. Coming soon to Podbean, Buzzsprout, Pandora, and TuneIn. Heard worldwide on Geo 7, Radio Public, Himalaya, and more. Take the Mike Wagner Show with you on any mobile device. Subscribe to the Mike Wagner Show on the YouTube channel and follow Mike Wagner Show on Instagram and Twitter today. Don't forget to support the Mike Wagner Show at the MikeWagnerShow.com. Click on donate. Also, you can go to PayPal as well too, and also Anchor FM/support. And also, for cool merchandise ideas and more, go to Amazon.com/The Mike Wagner Show. And for great books by Mian Mosensia and other cool merchandise, go to Amazon.com/Mian Mosensia and order today. We're here with author Randall DeVallance of Beacon Publishing here on the Mike Wagner Show. We talked about The Absent Traveller, Circus by the Sea, Dive, Sketches of Invalids, and talk about his amazing career, contributing with iShot, McSweeney's, and Wardride as well too. And he's living in Vermont right now. Let's talk about your book called Memoir of a Doomsday Prophet here on Beacon. And you got into it, and tell us a little bit more about the book, about Memoir of a Doomsday Prophet. Does this reflect on the current times that we're going through right now?
Certainly in certain ways. So, the main character, he's a young man, a college student, named Edwin Block. He's kind of like a typical working middle class 20-something. He's smart, but he's not particularly ambitious, not really a hard worker, no drive, and really no real direction in life. He's just been kind of sleepwalking through things, hitting all the marks that he thinks he's supposed to hit: high school, then college, and then whatever it is that's coming next. Getting decent grades at first, but then by his senior year, as things start getting more serious, they've started to slip to the point where, he's failing several of his classes. And then he fails one of his finals, and suddenly his GPAs drop so low that the school puts him on academic suspension, and he's out. So for the first time in his life, he's forced to look at his life and figure out, not only what it is he wants to do, but what he needs to do in order to survive. So in the aftermath of receiving this failing grade, he's sitting there on a bench in the middle of campus trying to figure out what to do. And he makes the acquaintance of this strange man who he's seen multiple times earlier that day, apparently watching him. The man introduces himself as BB. That's a nickname he goes by. And he tells Edwin a little bit about his life story. And, it includes, among other things, the fact that his father, BB's father, who'd worked in the mines in Kentucky, and he'd been obsessed with the idea of bettering himself and getting an education to sort of lift himself up out of his circumstances. he had also applied to the same school years ago, and he had been turned down. And that started this chain of events that, it really gutted him personally, led to a change in his personality, and kind of the family started to slowly dissolve. So BB himself, he had applied to the school earlier in an attempt to impress his father, make him proud, and he had also gotten suspended. So somehow he knows that Edwin had been suspended as well, and he's commiserating with him. He's upset. He wants to take some sort of revenge, and he wants Edwin to help him. But the best thing he's been able to come up with is this sort of juvenile plan to steal a statue that's in the center of campus of this early, 17th century benefactor of the school. So Edwin thinks, the plan's ridiculous. He doesn't want any part of it. But, after he's been talking to BB for a while, almost without realizing what's happened, he gets talked into helping. And from there, everything just sort of starts to spiral. All the events start taking their own course. They end up on the run from the authorities. They end up separating from each other, crossing the country. And eventually he finds himself, Edwin, getting subsumed in this strange sort of Calvinist doomsday cult. So there were a lot of different inspirations for specific images or set pieces that are in the book. But again, the overarching idea is how people deal with this feeling of being disconnected from society and the things that are supposedly important. So, here you have a guy, he starts out relatively advantaged. He's white, he's male. He's not rich, but he's not impoverished either. And, he's sort of just coasting through life, taking for granted the idea that things will somehow work out in the end. And, as long as he puts forward minimal effort, people are going to hand him the things he needs, a diploma, a job, a place to live. And it's not that he particularly even wants any of these specific things. It's just he doesn't know what else to do. He's basically following a script. And then the first time a wrench gets thrown into that plan, he has no idea how to react. And he immediately runs after the first idea that gets put in front of him, no matter how absurd. And it's driven much of the time by this idea that somehow he's owed something, almost like it's a birthright to achieve something of importance, which of course is based on nothing. It's just, it kind of always been there. Mm-hmm. And I think this is kind of one of the things that's underpinning like some of the things we're seeing now, like the rise in conspiratorial thinking amongst people in recent years. A lot of people, they feel unfulfilled. They don't have a lot of the things, and particularly material things that society tells them they need to be happy, and they don't have a lot of control over their lives. And these kind of conspiracies sort of give them a narrative that they can be a part of that, allows them to feel like they're participating in and have some agency over these important large events that are taking place around them. And so that just seems like a lot of what life right now in America is. It's lived less and less at the local level, and, family and community ties, they're weaker than they've ever been, and people are kind of searching for something to attach themselves to give them an identity. And whether it's like a political movement or even, something mundane like a fitness craze or like a multi-level marketing company, people are just looking for a sense of community and belonging. And I think it's just kind of manifesting itself in some profoundly weird ways right now.
Mm-hmm. And do you think social media today is, making it stronger or making it weaker because of this?
Oh, I think it's definitely making it worse. I mean, I think it does provide a sense of community in a way, but it also allows you to have a community where all of your preconceived ideas are validated, and also where you don't necessarily have a strong connection in the way that we used to understand it with other people. You may have differences with family members in political beliefs, personal beliefs, but, usually they're also there for you in a time of crisis. They help you through tough times. And with social media, it seems like now, where it maybe started as a way to keep in touch with some of these people who are already part of your life and, maybe meet new people once in a while, but it was kind of a mix of both. Now it seems that it's a way primarily to link up with other people who have a very specific, say, ideology that's similar to yours. And in a way, it's a way to escape from the people who should be closest to you. I mean, I've seen it even like with my family, which isn't particularly all that, internet crazy. We don't spend a whole lot of time on screens, but I've still been at big family gatherings where you see, all of a sudden you look around and catch everybody looking down at a phone or messing around. They're all, so I mean, it happens to everybody. And I'm sure, in certain families or certain groups of friends, it's had a really profoundly negative effect.
And I'll share a story as well, too, that we went to a restaurant in Dickinson, North Dakota. It's a Mexican restaurant where I took my wife and kids over there, and they had a singing waiter. And, of course, he did that to serenade, take your order and everything. And he's been singing at our table the whole time. And I thought, that's so amazing. I says, you know why? Because you guys aren't looking at your phones. And I thought that was rather interesting because we just enjoy the music. We didn't pick up our phones one bit. And his thing is, if he sees someone looking on their phones, he does not sing to them at their table. That has an effect, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I bet.
and of course, too, that I'm looking at this, a thing on Amazon, Memoir of a Doomsday Prophet. It says where to steal the statue of the college's early benefactor and getting roped into assisting with the scheme, finding themselves trouble with the law. It's like, how's it go from, trying to steal a statue into running with the law? Did the plans get leaked on social media? Did someone tattletale or anything like that? Or, maybe somewhere along the way we didn't know about?
Well, I mean, it really just happened from the act. So, I mean, there is an act earlier where, it took a lot of preparation to steal the statue. It's a very large statue. It's bronze. It's very heavy, and a lot of prep work went into it. So there was an incident with a moving truck that they had set up that ended up causing an accident and getting a lot of police attention. And then, of course, by the time the statue was actually missing, definitely the authorities there took notice. And yes, there was somebody who happened to see a moving truck leaving the area. So that definitely leaked to the police. And it went from being one of those things that seems, again, almost like one of those drunken frat pranks that you're going to pull.
It made me think of it. Yeah.
Yeah. And it doesn't seem like it's going to be, such a big deal. But then once it happens and once you start seeing the consequences cascading from there, things change quite a bit. I mean, actually this story, so I mean, the way the narrative kicks off, I mean, the whole tearing down of statues, it had been a big topic over the past couple of years. So before this even became a novel, it started out as a short story I was writing where, a completely oblivious college kid who has no political identity at all, no clue about what's going on in the world. It actually was kind of that, like a frat thing. He gets drunk and he steals a statue from the center of campus as a prank, and then suddenly finds himself at the center of this really hot button political debate. He sees his face plastered all over media. Some people are hailing him as a hero, and some are saying he's an anti-American villain. And, just this whole giant controversy that erupts around him. And that's actually where this thing started. But then as it went on, I started thinking about, more like the background and the motivations of the characters. And it completely changed from there and started lengthening out into a book length, work. So it definitely transcended whatever it was going to be in the beginning.
Oh my gosh, that is so amazing. And I'll tell you one thing, it's like, frat pranks like that just take on a totally different meaning. I'm sure Animal House would be like, criminal what you're doing, Bluto. So. Oh,
I know. Yeah, just the whole narrative about these different the things that have happened or movies from the past that seem so different now in a modern context. For sure.
And of course, we'll talk about on another subject as well, too. And what's coming up next for author Randall DeVallance of Beacon Publishing, we'll find out in just 1 minute. You're listening to The Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Also brought to you by our official sponsor of The Mike Wagner Show, international war-ring author Mia Moshenzia of Missing, available on Amazon and paperback and ebook. We'll be back with author Randall DeVallance of Memoir of a Doomsday Prophet from Beacon Publishing after this timeout.
The Mike Wagner Show is powered by Sonic Web Studios. If you're looking to start or upgrade your online presence, visit www.sonicwebstudios.com for all of your online needs. Call 1-800-303-3960 or visit us online at www.sonicwebstudios.com to get started today. Mention The Mike Wagner Show and get 20% off your project. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level.
Hey everybody, my name is Forbes Riley, and I'm an American actress and a TV host. And I was delighted when I got my copy of Missing, which is Extraordinary Relation of Ordinary People based on a real life relationship. it's well written. It's amazing. It talks about a man who has lost his wife and his daughter, and it's very well done. I'm going to highly recommend that you go get your copy of Missing. It is a powerful, exciting read. Mr. Mian Moshe Zia. He is the author of Missing. And I want to give a big shout out and a kiss all the way halfway around the world to my dear friend. Check him out at Mia's website. It's called www.miamosheZia.com. Missing. Available on Amazon. Again, I'm Forbes Riley, and I will see you again soon. Bye-bye.
Hey everybody, it's Mike from The Mike Wagner Show. The Mike Wagner Show can be heard on over 30 podcast platforms, including Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor FM, iTunes, Google Play, Amazon, Audible, Apple, and more. Coming soon to Podbean, Buzzsprout, Pandora, and TuneIn, where The Mike Wagner Show interviews great guests, cool conversation, lots of laughs, coffee, and more. Take The Mike Wagner Show with you on any mobile device. Subscribe to The Mike Wagner Show on the YouTube channel, and follow The Mike Wagner Show on Instagram and Twitter today.
Hey, this is Ray Powers. And if there's one thing you can count on in these unpredictable times, it's that you're in good hands getting some great radio, courtesy of The Mike Wagner Show.
We're back with author Randall DeVallance of Beacon Publishing with Memoir of a Doomsday Prophet here on the Mike Wagner Show. And just a few more things here, and love to have you back on, Randall, as well, too. Also did The Absent Traveller, Circus by the Sea, Dive, Sketches of Invalids. What can we expect from you in 2021 and beyond, Randall?
So for the time being, I'm really just kind of focused on marketing this book and then just work and family life. I have written one short story since this novel came out, and that's usually where I turn back whenever the writing bug hits again. I go back to the short stories, the 2,000 word less than word stories, just to kind of get the feel of things again, to work out new ideas. I'd really like to try writing something in a more stripped down style, something like Raymond Chandler or Lucia Berlin, who I just read recently. And I really admire that kind of spare writing that's still really evocative. It's not something I've done a lot of in the past. It's a lot harder than it looks. And I'd kind of like to take that on as a challenge. I'd almost like to return to the subject I wrote about in Dive, especially now that I'm like 20 years older. Just kind of revisiting the characters that I left there, if they're still working at this hotel 20 years later, what exactly that means for their life. So that's definitely catching my interest right now, and probably the direction I'm going to go.
Mm-hmm. And that's certainly amazing as well, too. Looking forward to having you on and talking more about that. And who do you consider biggest influence in your career, Randall?
Well, the biggest influence is it's definitely the teacher that I told you about earlier. I mean, that's where it all started. And besides that, it's just some of the writers I mentioned before. Really every writer that I read that just keeps my interest in reading. Again, I said Kurt Vonnegut and Tom Robbins specifically as far as influences about how I write, but really it's just anybody that I'm currently reading, and that's just keeping my interest in going forward with my own craft. So, I've been reading a lot of Brian Moore recently, Terry Pratchett, but it's just insatiable. It's like every week I'm reading at least another couple books. So it changes all the time. And really it's just stuff like this that's my biggest influence to keep trying, talking about the book and finding people that really get something out of it.
And that's very amazing as well, too, Randall. And what's the best advice you can give to anybody at this point?
The best advice for writing, the first thing I can say is just, it sounds simple, but it's just to do it. I think there's an idea a lot of times that if you want to be serious with something like art or writing, that you need to quit everything else and dive in headfirst 100%. And that's not realistic for a lot of people. And in the end, they just end up not trying it at all. But you really don't have to. If you have any time whatsoever, just write, even if it's just like 100 words a day. And again, I said before about short stories. That's one of the reasons I like to go back to them. Just any idea comes into your head, write it out, see what it turns into. Maybe it's nothing and it just gets shelved. Maybe it's something short and you can try to publish it somewhere on a website, or maybe it turns into something you never expected. So that's number one, is just carve out some amount of time every day to try it. And beyond that, once you have actually written something, especially something long like book length, and you've edited it as much as you think you can, just set it aside for like a month or two. Don't look at it. Don't think about it. And then come back to it with fresh eyes. Those are probably the two best things I could recommend.
And very rightfully so. I remember that very well. Once again, author Randall DeVallance of Memoir of the Doomsday Prophet from Beacon Publishing here on the Mike Wagner Show. Randall, very big thank you for your time. You've been absolutely amazing. Looking forward to having you again soon. Do us a favor. Keep us up to date. Love you back on. And once again, tell us about your upcoming projects. What's your website? How do people contact you? And where can people purchase Memoir of a Doomsday Prophet and other books?
Yeah, so the release date for Memoir of a Doomsday Prophet is actually April 16th. So right now, you can only pre-order it, but it is available on Amazon, both paperback and ebook for pre-orders. And then, as I said, on April 16th is when it comes out. And at that point, it'll be available pretty much all major retailers, Barnes & Noble, Walmart, Target, really any bookseller online or in stores. As far as my website, you can either go to my publisher's website, beaconpublishinggroup.com. I have a section there. There's also my Facebook author page, which is at randalldevallance.author. And I'm also active on a lot of literary sites like Goodreads and Litsy. I have a lot of reviews and stuff there, and also some different information about my book. And as far as my other books, those of course are also available online, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, any book retailer.
That is so amazing. Once again, Randall, a very big thank you for your time. You've been absolutely terrific. Looking forward to having you again soon. Do us a favor, keep us up to date. Love you back on in 2021 and beyond. And don't forget to keep in touch. You've been absolutely terrific.
All right. Thanks so much, Mike. I really appreciate it.
Hey, everybody. My name is Forbes Riley, and I'm an American actress and a TV host. And I was delighted when I got my copy of Missing, which is Extraordinary Relation of Ordinary People based on a real-life relationship. It's well written. It's amazing. It talks about a man who has lost his wife and his daughter, and it's very well done. I'm going to highly recommend that you go get your copy of Missing. It is a powerful, exciting read. Mr. Mian Moshe Zia. He is the author of Missing. And I want to give a big shout out and a kiss all the way halfway around the world to my dear friend. Check him out at Mia's website. It's called www.miamoshenzea.com. Missing. Available on Amazon. Again, I'm Forbes Riley, and I will see you again soon. Bye-bye.
The Mike Wagner Show is powered by Sonic Web Studios. If you're looking to start or upgrade your online presence, visit www.sonicwebstudios.com for all of your online needs. Sonic Web Studios specializes in custom web design, app development, social networking, search engine optimization, domain registration, email marketing, online stores, and more. Since our birth, we have been designing and developing immaculate websites and providing web solutions which are a cut above the rest. As a leading web designing enterprise, we have a team of extremely talented web designers who are well-focused and have the experience of working on multiple web developing platforms such as PHP, Magento, custom WordPress, and more. Sonic Web Studios has been helping businesses of all kinds, whether big, small, established, or startup, impress their audiences with exemplary web solutions. We don't just create beautiful and functional websites. We give you a complete online solution with the main goal of enhancing your yearly revenues. We aim to give your business the online exposure and brand acknowledgement that will help you in achieving increased conversions leading to profitable sales. Call 1-800-303-3960 or visit us online at www.sonicwebstudios.com to get started today. Mention the Mike Wagner Show and get 20% off your project. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level.
Thanks for listening to the Mike Wagner Show, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. The Mike Wagner Show can be heard on Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes, YouTube, Anchor FM, Radio Public, and themikewagnershow.com. Please support our program with your donations at themikewagnershow.com. Join us again next time for another great episode of The Mike Wagner Show.